my own. To you I belong. I give myself to you. My life is not my own. To you I belong. I give myself to you. My Lord, I come to you. On bended knee, it's true. I give myself to you. Oh Lord, do in me as you will. May I be your vessel that pours out your truth. May nothing I say, nothing I do, no facial expression, no hand, no movement, not be from the throne of grace. Father, make me disappear so you appear. Lord, I ask you to have mercy on all of us who know you, and all of those who don't know you. Use my offering that I present to you today for your glory and your glory alone. In your Son's precious name I pray, Jesus Christ. Amen. When striving to do the sermon, and I knew the songs, I knew it's going to lead in, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this transition. Because that song, I got to talk a little bit more, I guess, about that song I'm getting. With what I want to talk about today, there is a certain level of what is now countercultural, of respect, which we used to have, which we have been losing. There's a certain level of selflessness. We talk about the great generation, those who were in the wars and whatever. It was part of their ethos. They lived it. They had to. They had to be willing to sacrifice. They had to be willing to, for people they may have never seen, sacrifice, whether it was not having sugar, and you had so many people, many women, for example, went on assembly lines during World War II and everything to be able, that the Allies, that the United States could produce what they needed to produce to keep us from what was happening in Germany and Japan at that time. So even when the war is over, those people, that generation, those who lived during that time, they understood about sacrifice. Would they always do that? I'm not saying that. And that song reminds me, and it's very palpable, that nowhere, doesn't matter where I am. And if it's just me. Lots of times sometimes we perform because people are around. I don't know, Carl, if you experience this sometimes. You're around with a bunch of people and they don't know what you do. So I'm going to use me, I'm sports. So let's say when my knees were actually working better, I used to play basketball even into my 50s. And so be able to play and you're hanging out and I'm decent. And when my knees were decent and had a little more energy, I could play some defense. So even if I didn't shoot well, I could defend. And I'm a pretty good passer, I'm a pretty good dribbler, and I have good court vision. So I can usually play with people my age or even a little younger. So you don't tell them what happens. And so you go through a number of games, you're chatting, all different conversations are going. And then, we finish, and then we start talking. What happens? They ask you what you do. And at these times, I was definitely an educator, but at this time, just like I am now, I'll mention that I'm a pastor. And even now, Carl, if you ever in that sort of situation, the conversation changes. People will not say what they had just said 10 minutes ago. People will start interacting with you differently than everybody else. They will automatically, and lots of times you're playing basketball, people are cursing a blue streak. You just, you're not going to say anything. Hey, you're there to play or whatever. They'll stop themselves. Even now, there's a certain reverence and respect. We're losing a lot of it. It's not quite the same, but there is. So I'm going to go back to kind of like a bygone era to try to get my point across of what I'm trying to say today about reverence and respect. And hopefully I am clicking properly today. So let's see. Whoops, I went too far. Yep, there we go. And this is, believe it or not, this is not the name of the sermon, so you got to hold on. But I want to talk a little bit about cowboys and where have all the cowboys gone? And the cowboys at their best. Okay, I want to talk about, when I'm mentioning this, there are a lot of things in the Old West which weren't good, so I'm not saying that. So at the best, at least for me, what brings to mind when you study about cowboys and what they do, the amount of sacrifice, what they had to eat. So I actually have a prop today, like beef. This is the beef jerky for the vegans. So thinking about, so for me, this is okay. So I'm trying to eat better, but lots of times they didn't have the right food, so you gotta choose. So this is actually a apple cinnamon date bar, which I'm not, but I eat these now. There you go. I don't know if you can see it. It's like dark and it looks like jerky, right? So they're living off of beef jerky, hardship, sacrificing. And back then, also, there was also a certain respect of how men at their best treated women. At their best. There was a certain respect and reverence for God back then. A lot of kind of old-fashioned values that I want to talk about. And it was interesting, as I was preparing for the sermon, I'm trying to think about how am I going to lead into what I'm going to do. And God gave me a gift. Honey, do you remember this line? You remember? The song. I had totally forgotten the song by Paula Cole called Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? And with kind of what I was doing for today, it kind of, the same intonation you're going to see when I do get what this sermon is called. And I was like, and I couldn't even quite remember that. I said, I know it's a song. I didn't even remember it was a song I liked. So I'm searching, I find the song, and I remember, I love this song. I really do. So I was playing it, and here's just, and again, please forgive me on this, but I've been practicing all the time. But listen to these lyrics. I will do the laundry if you pay all the bills. Where is my John Wayne? Where is my prairie song? Where is my happy ending? Where have all the cowboys? I can't hit that note anymore. Gone. And another one, it says, thank you. Thank you. Another one is, if I can see the verse, I will. I'll say it. I'm just going to talk this one out. I'm not going to press my luck. I will, see, I almost sing it anyway. I will raise the children if you pay all the bills. And then where is my John Wayne? Where is my Prairie Song? Where is my happy ending? Where have all the cowboys gone? Now, in the culture that we are in today, that is a husband and wife relationship that in many instances are poo-pooed now. It is like, that is wrong. That is not what you're supposed to do. And I am totally okay, as led by the Spirit of God, if the woman of the house or whatever feels that led by God to be out in the workforce. But I do have a challenge that we have lost. I'm talking about stuff we have lost. And I've mentioned this before, so you're going to get tired of me saying it. And this is no overstatement. In my entirety of my life, 58 and a half years, the 3 hardest days I had in my life, and they need to walk up now. Come up. You guys didn't know you were in this. Come up. Come up. They were like, Jordan's like, what? No, I'm not. Now you're coming you're coming in front? Yes, I know you don't know. I did not even, what's this town ain't big enough. Okay. Honey, would you give me a mic, please?
I could have grabbed the mic.
I didn't think about this.
I can talk like that. Hello.
No, I want you to have a mic, just in case you want to say something. I did not plan this. I knew I was going to talk about this, but I did not plan that I was going to have them up. We'll just use one.
Oh, I see what you mean. Is it on? It's too on. Little on light. I can do it.
Julie has it.
Number 2.
Number 2. There we go.
Turn it on. Thank you.
There you go. Let's see. There we go. Training has. All right. So I am. He's like. So anyway. All right. 2 of the loves of my life, obviously. But you have to remember, for 3 days, this one was 4, and this one was 9 months. Angelique went away somewhere. And I had them to myself for not just a weekend. It was a long week. Oh, it was probably, were you doing, what's the thing? Okay, so yeah, it was New Jersey. So I don't know what it was. Maybe she went to visit her mom or something like that. I don't know. It was the hardest 3 days of my life. That is not an exaggeration. This one is a baby, and we call him Tigger, and he's always been a Tigger. So when he's up and awake, he's everywhere, into anything. He's crawling, but I mean, he's not walking yet. But then he's a baby, and so you got to do the formula. You got to make sure the formula's the right temperature and that don't burn them. And I'm like, I'm by myself. If anything happens to these 2 while their mother's away, I'm going to have to go to Argentina. I mean, and so then they poop and they pee, and you got to feed them and make sure they burp and all that other stuff. Huh? Oh, no, I learned my technique. Remember, I told you, I got my technique. I never got peed in the face. That was one of the things I said. I learned a technique is that I moved the diaper in front of the pee-pee all the time. And then we like, okay. And so thankfully, but you did so many more than I did. So it's not a fair comparison. I did 5% maybe. I don't even know if I did that much. So anyway, so you have this, and you have to do it. It's in 3-hour intervals and get all this done. So you're barely finished. And then you have a 4-year-old. And he's a great 4-year-old, but he's still 4. And he wants to be able to do something. He wants to play. He has to get fed, and he has to do. So that's all day. All day. This is not even including teaching, if you like teach at home or anything. So 3 days, and then mom comes back. You can go now. Mom goes back, comes back. I'm like this. Honey, never leave me again. Never leave me. I had to go to work on Monday. I skipped to work. Oh, I can't skip anymore because my knees, but back then I could skip. I skipped. I didn't care what sort of boss I had. I didn't care what I had. I would have stayed at work for 12 hours. It was so much easier. It's not even a comparison. That experience, that is an indelible experience that has been placed on me for eternity. And the reason I say that is that a lot of people who, again, if you're always in a sense a full-time mom. So I'm not saying but you're not, when you're actually doing all the caregiving, full-time caregiver, maybe that's the best way of saying it or whatever. If you haven't done that sort of work, that's why I tell all mothers to make sure their husbands have some sort of experience like that. Where as long as you can trust them, not that the kids will die, okay? If you know that they're that bad, but I would train them a little bit so you could go away to be with your girlfriends or something like that. So I would train them a little bit, but at least 2 days, not just a day, at least 2 days, that they will have a totally different perspective on what it means to be a full-time caregiver. They have a totally different perspective. And I think that's missing a little bit in our world. And so it used to be being that full-time mom was respected, was even revered. And now it's considering, oh, you don't work? I'm like, you have never gone a weekend where you had to take care of a 4-year-old and 9-month-old. You have never gone a weekend and had to do. And the reason I know, for example, we're blessed right now, Kyle's not here because she's actually helping a friend of hers do caregiving. And yeah, could you give the phone to mom? Because she knows a little bit more. Just kind of give just a little bit that Kyle has talked to her about with being, and she's just done it 3 days, something like that.
So dear friends of ours, their daughter and her husband are relocating to Thailand for him to be a teacher there. So they're in the process of packing up their home to head out west before they make their trip to Thailand. And this friend of ours, her name is Becca, she asked Kyle if she would babysit for her for a couple of days to give her a chance to be able to get more done, because with two little, for context, the kids are 3 and 15 months. So
they can see you. Just for a stream, it just helps a little bit. I was just thinking, because I'm just standing here. I was getting in my spirit that
you're just lonely.
Yes. Oh well. I always look better if you're here, so they can see who's talking. All right.
So anyway, so the kids are 3 and 15 months, and it's just a constant attention and taking care of them. And Kylie's like, "Mom, I'm so tired." She's like, "Kids are just." The work that you have to do is just so demanding. So she already now understands indelibly what it means to be a full-time caregiver to 2 little toddlers.
Right.
While their mom's packing to head to Thailand.
Exactly. Thank you, honey. So it's just to me, it's, so I say that to say this is, with what I'm going to talk about today, a lot of it, and my emphasis, we're going to go over one, and we're going to actually emphasize that again. But the major emphasis I want to talk about as we go to John chapter 5, and we're going to go back a little bit, verses 17 through 23. All right, thank you, Jared. I was getting ready to change it. All right, do I have enough space on my? Yes, I have enough space. Okay. Are you seeing me on the screen? Because I'm having this, I just see a blank screen, but it might just be my phone. It's on the Zoom. So anyway, all right, so we've already done some of this because we did 17. So I'm just going back to give us context. But Jesus answered them, My Father is working until now, and I am working. This was why the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him. Because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. Talked about a number of weeks ago, okay, is that Jesus is equal with God. So Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, that the Son does likewise. Oh, did I move it? That's okay. Is it easier for you to just move it? I'll just let you move it. Easier. That's too far now. Go back one. Thank you. I'll just let you move it. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing. And greater works than these will he show him, so that you may marvel. For as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, so also the Son gives life to whom he will. For the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, that all may honor the Son, just as they honor the Father. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. Praise be to God. And so I want to go through this. I want to first talk a little bit about verse 20. I'm not going to emphasize this as much this week, but it's very important, and you're going to see more of this later. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing. Okay, we talked about following. This is just after what we talked about last week in 19, following Christ. Okay, if you go back again to 19, we see, so Jesus said, this was the true one of the truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, that the Son does likewise. I want you to get the visual of a father and son working together, and this is actually very easy because scripturally and knowing the Jewish culture, remember, does everybody remember what Joseph, his dad, quote unquote stepdad, but his human dad in a sense, what did his father do? He was a carpenter. What did Jesus end up doing as a trade? He's a carpenter. So I want you to get that picture, and it's very hard. The God of the universe, okay, is the Son doing everything he sees his Father on earth doing. And because Joseph loves him and wants to share all of who he is, again, all the good, don't want to show the bad, but I want you to keep this picture, all of who he is with him. And so Jesus, so we know this on a natural level, and Joseph is trying to show him all the great good things. And again, but Joseph is flawed. Joseph is human. So sometimes we pass on as much as we don't want to, we pass on some of the bad characteristics. I've passed on bad characteristics to the sons. I pray the Lord exercises those, gets those out, and they just keep the good things. But I want you to go to the verse 20. In verse 20, you need to understand. Father, let me back up a little bit. We do understand that Joseph is a person, individual. Jesus is a person, individual. We get that. And when he actually, again, is looking to give all those characteristics, and Jesus, it talks about in scripture that he was submissive to his parents. He did as his parents. He's an individual, has his own will, but because of his reverence, respect for his even earthly dad and his position as a human, because again, Jesus was totally human, he did as Joseph would tell him to do as a carpenter. But that doesn't make Jesus Joseph. He is his own individual person on a human level. Okay, there's a lot to go through here, so I'm going very slowly because a lot of times people get confused on this. But now we're going to go to the divine level. So the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing. But this Father has no bad attributes. This Father knows all things. This Father has all power. And all of this he is showing and giving to the Son because he loves the Son, again, more than any of us can love our sons or daughters. And the greater works, we're going to get into that more, not this week, but later, but I do want to touch on it. Greater works, because remember, Jesus had just healed the man in the pool of Bethesda. So Jesus is talking about, and you can even talk about in the first, I think it's first chapter of John, I might be wrong about that, Nathaniel, I think it's 147, 48, where he talked about, oh, you're impressed that I saw you underneath the fig tree or olive tree or something. You're going to see stuff greater than that. And part of that is kind of a foretelling of some of the other miracles he's going to do. A lot of commentaries talk about this is really, really pointing to him raising Lazarus as well. And like I said, we'll talk about that more later. But I do want to really get into verses 21, 22, and 23, where again, Jesus' divinity is on full display. On full display. Verse 21. In verse 21, it talks about God's power to raise the dead. It talks about God's power to raise the dead. Now, let's see, those of you online, you can, if you're in the chat or on the stream or whatever, and I like to make this point because sometimes I make this point, it's like he raised the dead. Were there people in the Old Testament that God used to raise the dead besides Jesus? Give me one. There's definitely one. There's actually two, at least. Remember? Anybody? No. In the Old Testament, God used to raise the dead because people, for example, people say, well, Jesus raised the dead, so that definitely means he's Elijah. Thank you. Elijah and Elisha both did it. So I'm very big on coaching, very big on teaching. Okay. So a lot of people will just say, hey, Jesus helped raise the dead or raised the dead. So he's got to be, I'm like, and then people, if they know their Bible, and this could be humanists, whatever it is. For example, when Christopher Hitchens were alive and that's what you went with, he is ready to destroy you. Okay. Because then you'll have to say, well, what about Elijah? What about Elisha? So that's true. And we've got to know, again, that's why we need to know that it's true, but I need you to read the words. In this, Jesus is saying, God has given him the power to raise the dead, and it's totally up to him who does it. Totally up to him who does it. There was no prophet in the Old Testament who made that claim. And that is a claim of divinity. I don't have to pray to God. I don't have to ask God to do this because that's what the prophets had to God do. No, I can do this on my own. And Jews knew that if you're saying that, you're claiming to be God. It's again, you're going to see this over and over and over again. And we talked about it last, but I want you to keep seeing this message that is throughout the New Testament that Jesus makes this claim. You go to verse 22. God is the only one who can judge, folks. And it says Jesus has been given all judgment over mankind. Again, the Jews of that time know that is a statement that you are saying you are God because God alone, because no one in the Old Testament claimed that they could judge. If they claimed, they were making a false judgment, obviously. So again, you see, it's just unbelievably clear his claim of divinity and who he is, how high and mighty. He is just as high and mighty as God the Father that they know. The Yahweh, he is in flesh. Who that is. And if you were still in any doubt, verse 23 categorically says Jesus' equality with the Father. He says, if you're going to honor the Father, you must honor the Son. And if you don't honor the Son, you're not honoring the Father. And he says this actually 4 different times. The word honor is used 4 different times. And one of the big things I guess I like doing it is going through the words that are used in Scripture and understanding the meanings. So the next slide. We need to practice. Okay, we're going to practice our Greek now. All right, practice our Greek. Because in verse 23, for honor, and depending on your translation, it might be a little bit different. The way you pronounce that is tamao. Tamao. And this is used, it's used in a number of places in the Bible, but it's used 4 times in this one verse. 4 times in this one verse. And it means to honor with reverent service. To honor with reverent service. So I like breaking that down for those, since we speak English. What are those words? Because honor, reverent service. So let's go to reverent. Expressing or characterized by reverence. That doesn't help me too much, so I'm going to have to go to reverence. Worshipful, so I'm going to have to go to worship. But I do want to give you a fun fact that I didn't know. You know, sometimes you use words over and over and over again, and you just know that's the word, but you never think about where it comes from. Believe it or not, today was this week when studying, reverend. A reverend. Why are they called a reverend? And I'm like, revere. Duh. Reverend, yeah, I'm like, so that's where reverend comes from. But believe it or not, reverend comes into existence late 15th century. Before then, when you were talking about a reverend, because we don't usually use that word anymore, it's more like pastor or priest or something like that. It's actually, the person was called a reverent. A reverent. 14th century, it was reverent with a T. Was a noun referring to a reverend. Is that you revere, respect. So reverence, honor or respect, felt or shown, deference. You show deferential treatment. It's like that person is basically more important in a certain way. That's what you're supposed to do, tamao. And then worship. To honor or show reverence for as a divine being or supernatural power, to regard with great or extravagant respect, honor, or devotion. That's what honor means in that verse. That is how we are supposed to, our relationship and how we are supposed to relate to the God of the universe. With great and extravagant respect, honor, devotion, and other places, awe. So one of the questions, and you don't have to answer now because I do have a question. I did not do a poll or anything, but I do want responses, and those for online as well. To put it, if you're watching on the stream, you can still type in on the stream later, but not on this one. I'll speak for myself. Do I always think of God that way? In my interactions with the world. Remember, if you're a Christian, the Holy Spirit lives in you. The God of the universe does live in you. Are my actions living that out in relationship to my God. And I don't even want to, if a test, even if again, I don't care. We've dumbed down our standards. I don't like it. I don't care if educational people are watching it. We've dumbed down stuff. It's hurting us. So, but let's say we even take the dumbed down ones, and so you only got to get a 50. I'm failing miserably. Because there are so many situations where I may be working with colleagues or whatever. If I'm actually deferential to the Lord God, it's not what I want. It's not how I feel. My life is not my own. To you I belong. I give myself to you. Am I really doing that? I'm not. And are we? We need to examine ourselves. Those of us are saying that we are Christians. And a lot of times that's tough because then you see what Christ did. A lot of times he didn't say anything when people were saying terrible stuff about him. Many times he didn't get angry. He didn't get agitated. He asked questions, or he prayed, or he went away. And so the title of this sermon is this: where has all the reverence gone? Where has all the reverence gone? I'm going to put up a slide, the next slide, and don't do it yet. And for those of you online, I want you, this is one of those things, and I do want feedback. I'm hoping a couple of you will give me your impressions. I had gotten this slide because I saw it. When I first saw it, I was, and it hit me a certain way. I don't want to give it away. So I actually took it. I actually had to find it because it was on a different place. It wasn't a normal image or whatever, but it was an advertisement promoting something. And I just kept it. And I said, well, I might use it, I might not use it. And I'm like, I didn't. And I was pretty much finished. And I'm just checking the letters of the PowerPoint. And I'm getting, no, I think I'm supposed to. So when I tell you, I'm going to count down. I want you to put it up. When you see it, you might not be able to see the words on the bottom, so I'm going to speak those out. I want your first impression, whether it's a word or a phrase, of seeing this. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. The Kardashians, no, read the whole thing. Okay, I want you to read the whole thing. It doesn't count just seeing the first part. The Kardashians collection, Bible exclamation point. This is for super fans. So I heard one person said idolatry. That's the first thing that came to you? Okay. Crap. But again, you said that before. I wanted you to read the whole thing because you see Kardashians, but yes, right. Okay, I said crap. Does anybody else have a comment of how it hit you? Microphone. Sacrilegious. Okay, right. Okay. So I have someone, thank you, Julie, sacrilegious. Anybody else have just confusion? Confusion. Right. I was like incredulous, but it also hurt me because I'm like, why are you using the word Bible with an exclamation point for the Kardashians collection? Now, where I got this, Xfinity. I was on Xfinity just trying to be safe to watch my golf, okay, which I had taped, okay? Megagane, we rooting today, okay? All the people from Jersey, Megagane. So shameless plug for Jersey, okay? All right. But anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, you had me go there. Played in New Jersey, Weequahic, and lives in Homedale, and I used to work at Homedale, so I'm like so pumped. All right. I got to get the DVR done. But my point is, I was just going on there. It's the first thing. It's one of the first things. I go in, and I think they had the NBA playoff. Number 2, the next thing over that they're advertising for you to watch is this. So, I mean, if I just saw the Kardashians collection, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. And again, I'm on a small screen because it's just my regular computer screen. And I'm like, it's really tiny. I'm like, that looks like Bible? I'm like, is that really it? I'm like, I was like up here on this. What? I had to take my glasses off. Is that? Yes, exactly. Yeah, I can't even say it. So maybe, again, those of you online, maybe you feel like we're overreacting or something, but I think that's a lack of reverence for what that word in the English language is supposed to be about. You do not use that word when talking about anything else of this world, in my mind. And maybe that's too much, but that's how I think, and that's where we are. There's so much, and it hasn't been taught. One of the biggest things is how great and grandiose. So I wanted to hear what you folks thought. So Jared, you can go to the next slide. So you already answered that. So what do you think? So you've already answered that. So do one more. We're going to start. We need to, and again, I always want to be able to give you tools to walk this out. So here's the tools for this week. I know I need to do this more. Some of them actually I rewrote and I need to put on my devotional because I forget. Every moment right now, he is keeping me together. With him, God, keeping my molecules from separating, and it's all just how unbelievable, grandiose, marvelous, awesome, as my wife has, for example, I'm just going to give you an Angelique, which is now mine, and I encourage you, don't use the word awesome unless you're talking about God. I have to give my wife credit on that one. We throw that word around all the time. So that's me. There's certain things, I'm not saying you should do it. If you love awesome, keep saying it. But for me, we're talking about reverence and awe, because it talks about the Bible. As far as for English, they talk about awe a lot. And awe, it's not in reference to any, go ahead. Mom has. Can you come up? Because it helps for people. I'm sorry, we don't have enough, I'm sorry, we don't have enough camera people. We're not at that point yet, honey. When we get 2 cameras and stuff like that, but people, this is for the people on the stream. These are for people in Liberia. We're going to be sending it to Liberia again. Okay. So
I really do feel constrained to add a little bit more color to that, because I don't want it to come across like I'm just being opinionated about my thought. The word awesome means to stand in awe of, to revere. Okay, if you look up in a dictionary, that's what it will say. But Satan is very clever, and we have learned to take words that should really magnify and extol God. We've taken those words and we've used them so much that we lose the original meaning of what that word means. So how many times have you heard people say, man, that was an awesome movie? Have you been to that restaurant? Their tacos are awesome. My wife made me some awesome brownies yesterday. What about any of those things inspires awe or reverence? They don't. The word awesome should not qualify anything like that. Not a taco, not a movie, not a brownie. So if I use the word awesome, it has to be something that reflects God's glory, points to his glory, exalts his glory. And if you use awesome for anything that does not do that, you're using the wrong adjective. Find the right adjective, delicious brownie, fierce taco, that movie, man, they crushed it. That's fine. But if you want to honor God with your life, then don't minimize his awesomeness by calling things of this world that he's created awesome.
You're good. So I hadn't thought about that. I don't know how many years ago she talked about that. And I'm like, she's right. Right. Okay, Patsy, great. So I can't say I did. If I didn't hear, I would have kept doing that. So, I mean, pray on that, folks, but there are certain things that should just be reserved for God. And there are words that are in the English language that should be reserved for God. So to help remind me of his awesomeness and how I should be relating to him, I'm going to do a few scriptures, which I encourage you, whether it's these or there's other ones you can look up, just do search on scriptures on reverence, scriptures on awe, scriptures, and you may find some that you like better, but this is at least to get you started. First one is 1 Samuel 12:24. Only fear the Lord and serve him faithfully with all your heart. For consider what great things he has done for you. But if you still do wickedly, you shall be swept away, both you and your king. I love that. It's like all of you. It doesn't matter how important you think you are in this world. Next verse. This is Lamentations chapter 16, verse 2. And the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron your brother not to come at any time into the holy place inside the veil, before the mercy seat that is on the ark, so that he may not die. Okay, and again, we know that when we go behind the curtain, that only once a year the priest could go in and they tied a rope around his leg, because if he did something he wasn't supposed to do, he could die in there, and probably somebody did, and they didn't have the rope on it. I don't know how they got out, because it's like, oh, he's dead in there. I ain't going. It's like, what, do we have kids? Can we do a big fishing hook and we grab him? It's like, I ain't get it. I ain't touching the curtain. Okay, let's see if we can put a stick to touch the curtain. I don't even want to open it. How are we going? You know what? He's just going to have to rot till next year. Now, I'm just no. He's rotting till next year. We failed this year. Lord, please have mercy. We'll do a goat outside right here. That's what we'll do. We'll do a goat. We'll do a bull, a lamb. We're going to cover everything. Pigeons, doves, anything we can think of. We'll do it out of here and we'll go back. Right. I'm so you need to understand that's who we serve. Now, remember, he loves us. Don't forget 5:20. He loves the Son, and you're going to see later on how the Son loves us. And so we, again, very loving, but we got to, again, ECIW, we're going to give you all of it. We're not going to skip a verse. Okay, we're not going to skip anything. And the last one on this page, 1 Peter 3, chapter 3, verse 15a, the first part of it. But in your hearts, honor Christ, the Lord, as holy. Jesus, treat him as God, as holy. Remember that as we're walking, okay, I'm representing you. Because if we actually think about, I think if you think about these things as you go about your day, you're not going to react the same way with folks. You're not going to do the things that you would normally do because you're really oh, Jesus is right here. It's more than what would Jesus do. It's understanding the character, who God really is. And you're if the president and all that, we do all sorts of things. He's so far beyond. He says, you and your king are toast. And I'm going to leave you with I call one of God's biggest flexes. And as someone who's from North Jersey, oh, this is like a beatdown of epic proportions. So I'm going to leave you with this. So I call this, read this, go ahead, Jay, read this for a reverence reminder. A lot of alliteration. Thank you, honey. I'm trying to do some alliteration with mine. So read this for a reverence reminder. All right, this is Job, chapter 38. I'm not doing all of it. Now, what I encourage you to do is read all of 38, all of 39, all of 40, and all of 41, and pick. There's a plethora of reverence reminders in this one. So I only went through 38, and I tried to squeeze as much as I could on one slide. Okay? So I'm picking and choosing. So it's 2 through 5a, 12 through 13, and 16 through 18. Now, this is right after, contextually, Job, all the terrible things have been happening to him and his great friends. And I always like to give the friends credit because they get beaten up a lot. But I want to give them one thing. They came to him and sat silently with him for 7 days. I don't know any friends of mine, but well, actually maybe a couple, but just were with him in his sorrow and pain for 7 days. And check me on that. I'm pretty sure that's what it is correct. But then the older one, it's kind of the same generation of Job, they talked for a whole bunch of chapters. Turned out they weren't giving good advice. I'm going to give, and then God kind of talks to them about. And then the younger one, I think in chapter 33, Elihu, he speaks. He was the youngest, so he didn't say anything. He respected his deferring. He's an deferred. You see that all the time. And then he spoke, and he actually spoke truth. But then, dang, this is just, ow. God speaks in chapter 38. So I can't even imagine. Okay, it's like these 5 people, and God, the voice of God, just starts where you are. As Jared says, I poop immediately. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? And this is like, all right, let's go. Let's go. God says this, dress for action like a man. I will question you and you make it known to me. He's like, yo, baby, okay, you saying all that stuff? Let's go. Let's go. You think you know all that? You think you all bad in a bag of chips? All right, let's see if you know this. And you got to put it, this is what he's saying. Look at the words. I'm just read the words. This is a holy God who they've been talking against. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Look at this. Surely you know. See, people don't know the Bible's like, dang, God is like, that's like sarcasm, calling you out. It's like, surely you know, because you've been saying all this stuff, so obviously you know. Jump to 12. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? Did you do that? Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of the deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this, bro. Declare if you know all this. yeah, all right, yeah. Right, okay, hold on. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I can't show you, but let me say it for the people, because everybody can't see here. That's why you got to be here live. You got to be here live. And so Jared is saying, God said this and then gave you the mic. But understand, that's only chapter 38. He wasn't done. There's chapter 39, there's chapter 40, and chapter 41. And then if you read chapter 42, Job is like, I didn't want to say, I'm not going to say anything. It's like ashes. It's like, I'm sackcloth, ashes. What was I saying? I'm sorry. And he didn't say nearly as bad as the other ones. And he told the other, and before he ended, he said, you other people, you better apologize to Job, not Elihu. And I want to end here. People don't know their Bible. And that's why we do what we do. This is the God we serve. When we remember, it's so beyond my comprehension and understanding, you just want to get on your knees. You want to get on your face. And those who know, and I understand, those of you out there who right now don't know Christ, I totally get it. This might be just like, ugh. But some of you might be out there, don't know him yet, but this hits something. It hits a chord in you that, wow, there's something that's moving you in a direction I need to know more. And some of you might be to the point where, you know, you've heard enough that God has actually moved to your place. I believe he is who he is. And so I encourage you, if there's no special prayer, there's no special document you have to do, there's no special person you need to see. The only person that you need to communicate to is God, is Jesus. And just tell him, my life's not my own. To you I belong. I give myself.